I think it's United States on one hand, wanting to pursue the status quo. And the status quo is the world dominated by United States. And this is understandable. Any power or any empire would do that. Yes, it is an empire in the making. The policies it pursues are status quo oriented. They are to preserve American power, or the power of all those entities which construct American power. So it is an empire in the making, and there are different groups or factions or other segments of the world, political segments, that resent this. And so there is a conflict.
So you don't think this is a clash of civilization?
You see, not necessarily. Not necessarily, because civilization is independent. Theoretically, civilization can also be independent of religion or a religious identity. There could be a Persian civilization, and then it could have a religious identity as well. So, I mean, you could have the two identities superimposed on each other.
But in this case, this says
There is
Western
a conflict.
versus Islamic civilization. Do you think there is such a thing? Islamic
It's
civilization?
becoming that way, unfortunately. Unfortunately, it's being posed in this way. It looks like a clash between an Anglo-Christian or a Judo-Christian Anglo-Saxon West and Oriental Islam. It's being posed as that.
Would you think that it would become this by the force of it being reckoned this way?
There's a possibility. There is a possibility. I'm sure there are enough rational forces on both sides which would like to think about or problematize this thing. You see, look at, and it's in both sides. Is America the only problem? It could be part of the problem, but it's not the only problem.
Well, they're not saying that. They're saying in this war that we have, this is the objective we have. We will destroy this country. And that's the time when you would say, beat our chest and say victory.
No, but I'm quite amused when you use the word they, as if there's a monolithic entity we're talking about.
Well, we're talking about people like Osama bin Laden and people.
Yeah, but do they represent the Muslim world? I'm sorry, they don't.
No, that's besides the point.
No.
Right now, the war is not going on with the Muslim world and the U.S. The war is going on between those forces and the U.S. Of course, the Muslim world is, because of being a party in this, has become, the enemy in this case. But no, that's not the war. The war is very clearly between these two parties. The other party has very clear objectives, which is the destruction of this country.
I don't think so. I don't think so. See, you're assuming a few things.
Oh, so Osama bin Laden did not say that?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
Osama bin Laden or his group does not necessarily represent the Muslim world. Why should I say, or why should I take him as representing the Muslim world? And the other issue is, how do you begin to define, or how do you begin to describe this animal called the Muslim world? We haven't even started to sketch the boundaries of this Muslim world politically. And I'm sorry, I do not think for a minute that Osama bin Laden or his gang represent the Muslim world.
So what do you think, how would this end, this conflict?
There is no beginning and end in this story.
It's
a saga.
11th.
It's a saga which is going to go on. As long as it takes to define who we are as Muslims. And I'm not necessarily saying that definition necessarily leads to peace. You see, we might define ourselves and define what we want to do, find an objective, a political objective, and say, all right, fine, we might need to wage a war against X, Y, or Z, right? that is secondary. The first thing is we have to find out who we are and where do we want to be. There are three kinds of Muslim world. There is Mahathir Mohamad's Muslim world, as I call it, which is modern, which is less concerned with, which is not theocratic. Yeah, I wouldn't use the word secular, which is not theocratic, and which is confident as well and can stand up for itself aggressively. It is a Muslim world which says, for instance, Malaysia says, I do not want to open my capital markets to the West. You know, it has managed to define its interests. Fine. It's aggressive. It's confident. Then you have Osama bin Laden's Muslim world, which is chaotic, which is hostile, which is militant. And then you have a dependent Muslim world, which is made of Hosni Mubarak's and Karzai's and Musharraf's of the Muslim world. A Muslim world which is dependent on the United States. Now, none of these later two categories are actually helpful in defining or redefining the boundaries and parameters of the political discourse in the Muslim world. It is this Muslim, independent, modern Muslim world which needs to take the lead. So, basically what I'm trying to tell you is that there's a lot happening. So you cannot think in terms of the end of the story until you begin it. And I think we haven't even begun that.
By we, you mean the Muslim world?
Yeah.
Do you think that because of this war that's happening, that somehow Islam will be transformed into something new?
You see, what this conflict tells us is that we need to rethink basic concepts of faith and have greater dialogue, which we haven't had. We need, for example, ijtihad in Islam. Now, ijtihad not with probably all mullahs sitting on a table, but with, the scientists, the social scientists, the physicists, the chemists, professional people as well. People with knowledge sitting on the same table as a mullah and discussing and determining values of things and matters. And perhaps this conflict has, in some parts of the world, awoken us to the fact that we need to stand up to this occasion and the challenge to redefine our norms and values.
So you think that it would result in Islam that, at this time, which is not very clear in people's mind about what exactly Islam is, that this whole conflict will redefine Islam so that it would become a new entity. Is that what you're saying?
You see, no, I don't think that there is. You see, there is a difference between Christianity and Islam. In the sense, in the manner that as you talk about it. Yes, people know what Islam is. People know the religion. People know its principles. People know its norms. Yes, there are variations as well, but there's no challenging that. Ordinary Muslim believes in one God, believes in the Prophet, at least more or less, does that. What we need to debate are the terms and conditions then of surviving and thriving as a Muslim and as a Muslim nation. What kind of laws, what kind of a political discourse that you have, right? So that needs to be redefined and redetermined, and that probably would happen in the next 5 to 10 years, depending on if we can find amongst ourselves, if we can find interlocutors and partners that we can talk to.